ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. We are in our Arabic class. Could you make sure you get that 409 and some of those things so that I don't have to go get them during the class? Thank you. We are in our Arabic, our total Arabic class, or our complete Arabic class. I looked over you guys' homework. Hey, young man, turn that thing off or get out of here. Come on, go over there. So, in this class, we have a quiz every week. This week's quiz is going to be on a handout I gave you. Jazakallah khair. Everybody pull out the handout that I gave you. The handout is on, no, not the homework. Not the homework handout. The handout I gave you a few weeks ago on the pronunciation or the enunciation of letters. There were some terminologies that I gave you. Okay? Okay, we'll get you one right now. Everybody pull out the handout. It says sifats with opposites. With and without. So sifat with opposites, sifat without opposites. It has February 2, 2006 on it, right? Yeah, here, I got a copy right here. Well, that's not an extra copy. Let me get another.
I personally don't have an extra one, and unfortunately we don't have access to the copy right now.
This is a crummy one, but...
I can do crummy.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, does everybody have their paper out? Do you have one, young lady? Do you have yours over there, Miss Aliyah? Mm-hmm. Okay, could you share it with your partner? And we'll get copies to those other people later on. What we're going to do here, actually we're going to do a review anyway. That's what we're doing here today. We're doing a review, and then at the end or the middle of the class, I'm going to give you a test, a quiz on this same thing. Today's quiz, we're going to do a review before I give you the quiz. So you guys, hey, this is how I'm doing it today so that you guys can get accustomed to this, because these terms are going to be terms that you're going to be working with consistently after today. So I want you really to know them. So please pay attention. Please pay attention. First of all, we want to define the word sifat. What does the word sifat mean?
Description in a word.
Sifat, okay, it's from the root word, it's written this way, sifat, and it's from the word wasafa, say that. The noun is, we were going to say noun here, is going to be wasfun. The person likes a thing. The thing of it is called wasfun. The action is wasafa. Wasafa means to or he described. Okay, past tense, he described. Okay, wasfun is a description. Okay, sifa is one of them. You say one, sifa or sifatun is description. Okay? Also. And sifat or characteristics, description, characteristics, of something. S.th means something. You don't have to write the whole word out. Shorthand, okay? Now, one of them is sifa. The plural of sifa is sifat. Okay, say this word. Sifat. Okay, so here we have sifa, that's one characteristic. Sifat are the characteristics of something. Everybody with me? Okay, so after having described these things, I need the paper to wipe off the board. Okay, like toilet paper or something like that. So this is the word that we're dealing with today. Why? Because we're talking about the alphabet. That's all we're talking about. And in dealing with the alphabet, Shukran jazilan. And in dealing with the alphabet, every letter has particular sifa. Has not just sifa, it has sifat. Every letter has particular characteristics and ways of pronunciation. Ways of pronunciation is describing, for our terminology today, when we talk about sifat with regards to letters, it is how to pronounce, how to formulate that letter with its particular characteristics in our mouth. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, hopefully it does. Now, the sifat are of two types. How many types? Sifat, I'll use the English transliteration. Sifat are two types. There are two types of sifat. There are sifat with opposites, and there are sifat without opposites. Okay? There are two types of characteristics in a letter. Some have opposites, some do not. Is that understandable? Now, I'm missing a paper. Now, the first letter, the first ones we're going to be dealing with are the ones with opposites. We're going to deal with the sifat with opposites. Okay? Can you follow me? Right with me? Yes. You ready? Yes. Hums. Everybody say hamsun. Hamsun. Now say hams. Hams. It's not hams, it's hams. From the hair that comes from the bottom of your stomach or the bottom of your trachea, actually. And it's hair, meme, seen. Say hair, meme, seen. Hams. Say healthy. Now say man. Now say slide. Those are the three letters. And we're going over it like this because through this part of the class, you will learn very particularly, very detailed how to pronounce each letter. And if you learn how to pronounce each letter, then your tajweed gets better. Your enunciation and pronunciation, you start to sound more intelligent, right? Just like when you see a child. He starts to talk properly, you hear his words more, or her words more clearly, you listen and respect that person. Okay, hamsun is whispering. For our purposes, these are my definitions, okay? Someone would say, oh, that means XYZ. Abu Tawbah said it meant XZY. Okay? Whispering. Everybody say hums. You hear that? That last sound, everybody say hums. You see that? It's like whispering. Okay? It's whispering sound. What does it mean when we describe a letter that has hums? Wa alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That has hums as one of its characteristics. Okay? What it means is that when we are pronouncing this letter, there's a flow of air, a flow of breath that comes after we finish saying that letter. For example, some of the letters that have humps would be fa. Everybody say fa. Now, as a rule, let's go back over here. Our sidebar is this direction today. As a rule, whenever you want to practice the pronunciation of a letter, what you do with that letter is you put an alif before the letter, right? You put a hamza or a fatha over that letter, that alif, and then you put the letter down here with a sukoon. So you want to practice fa, right? So we say F. F. Everybody say it. F. Now fa for family. Fa is a letter that has hamsun in it. Hams. It whispers. Okay? So we can practice fa by saying F. Take 4 or 5 front teeth will fall upon your inner lip. F. So you hear that whispering afterwards? Can you stop it? No. So whispering or hams is one of the characteristics of fa. You follow me? Now, it has an opposite. I'm not going to go through all the letters and what their characteristics are. Our lesson today is on the characteristics, the sifat. Why? Because once this lesson is over, the next lesson that we have is going to be on abjad. The next lesson after that is hawas. That's right, in one lesson, alif, ba, jim, dal. Why? Because you know the sifat. And I'll describe them to you, the letters, but you are responsible to know the sifat, because we're going over that now. Now, if you want to know how that plays into that particular letter, at that time I'll answer that question. Everybody understand my point? So my point here is to learn the sifat. I'll give an example of each one. So this is a flow of breath. What is it? A flow of breath or air, okay? After pronunciation. For example, fa, F, okay? Everybody with me? Okay, we'll see. Let me get this off the board while you'll write that down. Yes? Somebody saying something? Hums? Yes, you can say the words.
That's the definition of hamsun that you just wrote, right?
Yes, sir. There's a literal definition, which is whispering, and there's a technical definition, which is a flow of breath after pronunciation. Okay? When we say humps, we're referring to the flow of breath that comes after its pronunciation. When we say whispering in regard to humps, it is giving you the spirit of that letter, the letters that are represented with humps as a characteristic. Okay? Because we're giving you more than just Arabic here. We're not just telling you, say, Kaif halik, la bas, walhamdulillah. We're giving you the spirit, the root and the toot of the whole Arabic language. Astaghfirullah, no ums. From beginning to end. We're not unturning. We're overturning every little rock and pebble along the way. So it may take a little bit to get there, but you will not lose anything. And those people who want to study the classics, we have other time for studying a different classic so you can know that. Okay? Like Ajurmi or Alfiya and all those different things like that. Okay, the next one is Jaharun. I said these have opposites. So on the opposite side, over here, I'm going to put Jaharun. Everybody say Jim. Ha, Ra, Jahrun, Jahrun, Jim, Ha, Ra. And when you pronounce Ra, your tongue does not touch anywhere in your mouth. Say Ra. Practice saying Ra without letting your tongue touch the bottom, the top, or the sides. Say Ra. Ra. You understand that? And that's the consciousness that you should have when you pronounce that letter. Okay, so Jahrun literally means loud. Okay? It's loud, clear, and audible so you can hear it. Okay? So I'll just put loud in one term. Okay? Just as one word, inshallah ta'ala. As a terminology, it's trapping the flow of breath of air due to a heavy dependence on the makhraj. Let me say that again. It's trapping the flow of air. Traps it. The flow of air because, why? Because there is a heavy dependence on the makhraj. The makhraj is the point of articulation. Okay? For example, a letter that has jahrun is ba. Everybody say ba. Ba. Example is ba. As is in our previous, we put a fatha before it, and an alif, we put a sukoon. We say ab. Say ab. You see that loud? That's jahrun. Yes, I'm being exaggerative slightly. I'm slightly exaggerating, but only slightly. Arabic is an exaggerative language. Ab. You hear that? That heavy dependence on the makhraj, so you trap the air. Ab. If you don't hear the sound. Ab. You don't know what that is. So it has to come out loud. Ab. You hear that? But you still have to hold that air. When you don't say ab. You say ab. And you hold the air in your nose. Right. You know, so it still resounds, but if you let the air out, it lets go another sound. Okay. So that's the example we have here with ba. So it is trapping the air. Here, it's loud. It's trapping. Everybody say, when I say this, you say it. Okay? Trapping the flow of air.
Trapping the flow of air.
Or we say breath. Air, breath. Due to a heavy dependence on the makhraj. For example, ba. Now that's one. You have one opposite, hamsun, and one is jahrun. So what you will learn is that any letter that has jahrun as a characteristic cannot have hams. Right? Any letter that has jahrun as a characteristic cannot have hams. And any letter that has hams as a characteristic cannot have jahrun. Because these are letters or sifat that are opposite, opposing each other. They're different. They go different direction. This says that you trap the air. This is a flow of air after pronunciation. Letting it go. F. And you let the air just flow. Say it. Whenever I say the example, you say the example over again. And you consistently follow it and mimic that way. That's what children do. They follow you around in their terrible twos. You say, hey, be quiet. They say, hey, be quiet. Hey, don't make fun of me. Don't make fun of me. They do that and it gets on your nerves, but they're practicing. They're practicing their pronunciation and their formulation of sentences. You too, in this class, we're in our terrible twos. So everybody, don't crawl on the floor and don't pull out the sockets and knock down the cameras. But what I want you to do is enunciate when I enunciate. F. And now ba is different. Say ab. You hear how you're holding the air? Even though you're forcing a sound out, you're controlling it. Ab. F. You see how the F is letting it flow? Ab. F. Ab. F. You see the difference? One is whispering, and one is loud. One traps the air. The other one lets it flow. That's one of the characteristics from each side. The next one is called shidda. I'll put shidda over here.
Shidda.
Everybody say shidda.
Shidda.
Okay. Now shidda is sheen, dal, tarmabuta. It's pronounced shidda or shiddatun. Shiddatun is strength. Okay? It's power. Okay? I'm going to say strength right here. But when I use this word strength, I mean strength of force. Okay? Because we're referring this with regards to a letter. It's the strength that you use in pronouncing this letter. Remember, these letters have character. They have personality. Each letter has its own personality. And if you don't know the personality of the letter, you're not pronouncing it, not properly. And you have to consciously give that letter and allow his personality to flow, or to show, I should say. And what is it in tajweed? وَهُوَ إِعْطَاءُ كُلَّ حَرْفٍ حَقَّهُ وَهُوَ إِعْطَاءُ كُلَّ حَرْفٍ حَقَّهُ مِنْ صِفَةٍ لَهَا وَمُسْتَحَقَّهُ. It's giving each letter its rights with regards to its character and its personality and what's tied to its personality. If you don't know, you ain't doing it right. You may be imitating, but you don't know what you're doing. Literally. And it doesn't take much to learn it. So here we have shidda, strength of force. Say that.
Shidda, strength of force.
Shidda, strength of force.
Shidda, strength or force.
Strength of force. Your force, the force that you bring this letter, or force, you could put or force, but it's the force. It's trapping the flow of the sound in the makhraj itself. It's trapping the flow of sound in the makhraj itself. Now you say, why am I telling you guys this and I wrote it down and everything like that? We're having a quiz at the end of this class, okay? Having a quiz. So I'm reviewing this with you so that you know. Trapping the flow of the sound in the makhraj. Like, for example, like we did with ba, but I'm going to give you another one. I'm going to give you like qaf. Here's qaf. Qaf is a good example. Say qaf. Now say aq. Aq. You hear that? You trap the sound in there. Aq. Say al-haq. You see that? Now people may think I'm talking about the qalqala. I'm not talking about the qalqala. We'll get to that later. That's a sifat that doesn't have an opposite. Here I'm talking about the strength. How you trap that sound. Haq. Okay? If you don't trap it, you won't hear it. You'll sound like an Egyptian. You'll say, ha, ha. That's how they say it, ha. Aulu. As opposed to aqulu. They say, aulu lak. They don't pronounce it. They don't trap the flow of sound inside the makhraj. Okay? I'll give you another one, ak. That doesn't have the qalqala. Say ak. You hear that? You're trapping it that time. Ak. Ak. Like when you say the word cat, okay? Or tack. Same word. You trap the flow. Same sound, I should say, not the same word. Same letter. Say tack. That person is tacky. Say tack. You pick up a tack off the floor. You see, say the word again. Say tack. I'm going to change the example because I think people might think I'm talking about qalqala. I'll put the calf there. The calf is better, because it doesn't have the qalqala. And both of them are allowable. But we're going to use the qalqala later on. The qalqala is that drum beat, that booming sound that comes after the letter in ab and aq and aj and those types of letters. So we'll leave that for now. But here we have ak. Everybody say ak. Ak. You say tack. Same sound. What you're doing, what I'm just trying to bring to you is to let you know what you're actually doing when you say the word tack. You're trapping the flow of the sound inside the makhraj, the pronunciation point or the enunciation point of that letter. Okay? And you're keeping it going there. The next one is, or the opposite of shidda. What's the opposite of shidda? No, not, okay, it's rikhwun, okay? It's ra, kha, and wow. Say rikhwun. Rikhwun. Or you can say rikhwa, but it's rikhwun is easier. We say it like that. And rikhwun is weakness. That's what it means. Weakness. It's not coming. It's not coming so hard. They say looseness here. I wrote that down. But I don't like to explain it like that, because when I mean looseness, it's not loose in its pronunciation. It's not loose. It's not that you lazily give the letter. What I want you to understand by this, for example, in the letter kha. What I mean by kha, you have to put some strength in there, it seems, to say kha. Everybody say that. Kha, kha, kha. Okay, kha. You have to make your mouth round. But what the looseness or the weakness that I'm talking about is that it's bumping. You see how that letter is going across like that? Kha. Your throat, your tongue is up and is bouncing. Kha. Up on the top, in the back. That's the weakness that I'm talking about when I'm referring to that. Okay? That's the weakness. That instead of trapping the flow, you let the flow, you let the flow of the sound, you let the sound flow during the pronunciation. Okay? You let the sound, while you're pronouncing the letter, go through it. It's blowing the whole time. Say kho. Ech. You see that? Ech. You see, the whole time you're doing it, you're not trapping the flow of sound, right? You're letting it flow. You're letting the sound flow during the pronunciation. Ech. Ech. You hear that? Or, for example, you can say S. You hear that? Or esh. You hear all that? The sound is you're letting the flow of sound, you're letting the sound flow during your pronunciation. That's rikhun. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? Okay, so instead of trapping it, you're letting the sound, I can't hear you, flow during pronunciation. Sorry? Well, I want to use the word pronunciation here in this state because it makes it easy for people to understand. Because the word makhraj in and of itself is the place of articulation or, enunciation or, pronunciation. So here it makes more sense to use the word, it wouldn't sound straight to letting the sound flow during the makhraj. People wouldn't be clear on that. But they will be clear to letting the sound flow during pronunciation of a particular letter. For example, we use the word ech. Ech. Or es. Or esh. You hear that? You're letting the sound flow during your pronunciation of that sound. Is everybody with me? Since we're over here, we'll go over to, now there's a third here that is, we say these all have opposites, but between strength and weakness, there is one that's called tawassut. Tawassut. It is three when it gets to shiddah, strength, and weakness, then you get tawassut, okay? Ta, was, sat, tawassut. Okay, it is from the word wusta, which means medial. Here, we're going to use it as moderation. Everybody say that. Tawassut, moderation. Moderation. Okay, meaning that the sound the sound emerges, right? The sound comes up, it emerges. It appears. Everybody understand why I say the sound emerges? But it does not, however, does not flow. Okay, so now we're thinking, what are we talking about? The sound comes up, but it doesn't flow. It's a controlled sound then. Like R. Say raw. You see? Say S. See? That's weakness. It's flowing. Right? Say ek. It's controlled. You trapped it. Now say R. You see? It comes up, but it's just not flowing by itself. You're stopping it. You're controlling it the whole time. Does that mean? Or L. L. The sound comes, but it's not cut and dry like ek or eb or aq. It's not like that. And it's neither is it like ech or es or esh. Right? It's controlled. Our. Right? So the sound, it emerges, but it doesn't flow. We'll get there. Insha'Allah ta'ala, we'll get there. Right now, it doesn't make sense maybe because it's just a bunch of terms that I'm giving you. When we start going through and we say raw like rock or never rolls, although it does repeat. That's for raw. Okay? So, it'll get there. You'll start to understand how to make that sound, how it comes up. The next one that we have here is isti'la. Now, you had this for, 2 weeks now, right? 2 weeks you had this paper, so you should have at least looked it over. Isti'la, and its opposite is lowness. So, isti'la is going to be on this side, the strength side, the loud side. Isti'la. I keep saying the word. I don't hear anybody else saying it. Isti'la. Okay? So, an alif here, right? Seen, ta, with a kasra, la, tun, ta marbuta, isti'la. Here I'm going to define it as elevation. Okay? And is to raise some part of the tongue towards the top of the mouth when beginning pronunciation. So it's I'm going to say to raise some part. It's important because you don't have to raise the whole part of the tongue. Everybody, please pronounce this. Say the same thing with me. Okay? Towards the some part of the tongue towards the top of the mouth. When beginning pronunciation. Okay? Now, I'll give you a letter. It's called va. Va. So say av. Av. Say va. You see how your tongue raises up? Va. Av. Av. You see your tongue is raising up? When you start towards the top of your mouth, when you begin to pronounce that letter? Av. Now, a lot of times, sadly, and I'm not picking on any nation, a lot of times,
Go ahead, pick on.
all right, you find a lot of people from the Indo-Pac, a lot of people from the Khalij, the Gulf, Arabs from the Gulf, and a lot of times a lot of West Africans refuse to pronounce this letter, except when they're reciting Quran. Except, and some of them refuse to do it even during recitation of Quran. And they'll pronounce it as a Z. Okay? You pronounce it as a Z. It is not a Z. It is not a Z. Okay? Or it is not a D. It is not a ZD. It is not a ZDH. Not a DZH. It is a va. Everybody say va. And raise your tongue up and round your mouth out and pronounce it from its proper pronunciation. Va. Va. Alv. 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 And it has isti'la, from elevation. Okay? Now, its opposite is istifal. Say istifal. Istifal. From alif, sin, ta, istifal. Lun. So you have an alif, sin, ta, fa, alif, lam. Istifalun. And istifalun is from the word sufla, so it means lowness. So you say lowness. To be low, meaning your tongue. So this one, if that one is to raise some part of the tongue towards the top of the mouth when beginning pronunciation, its opposite would be lowering. Lowering the part, the tongue, or any part of the tongue towards, I'll say the tongue, but here we know any part of the tongue, to the floor of the mouth. The mouth during pronunciation, okay? Ila akhirihi. During pronunciation. Now, some of the letters of istifal, we can use any one because there's so many of them. Let's say, astaghfirullah al-azim. Dal. Id. Dal. Ad. Okay? Say dal. See, now you're saying, well, you say ad and you raise your tongue up, right? But this is to get to that makhraj, where the makhraj of the dal is. But here, from the sifat of dal, is that you say dal. Dal. Here, when you do dal, your tongue has to be flat in your mouth before you even start. Okay? You cannot even start to pronounce the letter dal until, look at my mouth. My tongue is flat. It's wet at that time, soaked from one part of the tooth to the other. See? No cavities. Okay, so I'm teasing. Astaghfirullah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. But from one part of the mouth to the other part, it's wet and it's flat, it's soaked to its fullest ability. I'm just telling you basically how to pronounce this letter. And then when it gets there, you say dal, ad. You see that? Ad. It comes up and goes back down. That's istifal in this letter. Okay? Now, the next one is itbaq. Say itbaq. Itbaq is on this side. The big, powerful side, okay? Let me get over here. Not that you guys are not powerful, but you guys are not what we're dealing with on the powerful side. Itbaq. Everybody say itbaq. It's alif, ta, ba, qaf. Itbaq. Or itbaqun. And itbaqun, we're gonna as a term, we're gonna say it's closing. Closing. But remember, this is my terminology. I made up all this terminology, not the Arabic, but the English, okay? Because how I understand English and how I understand Arabic. This is considered closing, however, it's actually rounding. What is it actually? Rounding. So I'm gonna put that here too, in parentheses. Rounding. Okay? So it's rounding your mouth, okay? Here, I'm going to say it's rounding your mouth. Your mouth during pronunciation. Pronunciation. Also, it's the meeting of the front part of the mouth, not just the tip, and its opposite at the top of the mouth. Okay? Wa meeting the front part of the tongue, meeting the front part of the tongue, not just the tip, and its opposite at the top of the mouth. You can only understand it through using it. Say al. You see that? If you do it right, al. It's meeting the front part of the tongue and its opposite at the top of the mouth. So the front part and the back come up to the top of the mouth. Say al. You see that? How my tongue, it rolled. Al. Louder. Al. And I'm going to use dad. Ad. Ad. You see, it's that sound. It comes in here. It's not ad, it's ad as a sound. So, and it's rounding. When I say rounding your mouth here, your mouth has to be round. Wa alaikum salam. Like that, round. Ad. Okay, now, that's on this side. Over on this side, we have fet. Everybody say fet. Let's put this in its own group. And we'll start over here with fet. Opening, yes. So fet is fa, ta, ha. Fet, hun. And fethun is opening. Opening. I say this is like a doorway. Okay? If that's rounding it, this is rectangulating it, you know? But this is opening your mouth from bottom to top in an upward motion. Ah. Everybody go like this. Ah. Like that. Ba, ta, fa. All those letters are letters of fat. You open your mouth. You can't be a mumble mouth in Arabic. You can't be. You have to open your mouth. Okay? Yes, Abdul Hakim. So it says, here, I wrote separating the tongue From the top of the mouth. And I wasn't trying to be facetious. Okay, I mean that. You have to open your mouth. And how do you do it? You separate the tongue from the top of the mouth. You don't sit there like this. Open. Okay? Open. And I'll use a simple letter. This is alif. Just so we can get there. You see that? Separates the tongue from the top of the mouth. Right. Moving right along, we have two more, and we're done. This one we're going to call it dhalaqa. Say dhalaqa. Dhal, alif. Dhal, lam, alif, qaf, tarmabuta. Dhalaqa. Dhalaqa. Here we're going to call it fluency. Fluency. You will write what I write, okay? And fluency here is that the letters flow or begin from the top of the tongue and from the lips. So that the letters, don't write that the letters flow. Forget that. I'll explain why I wrote that. But here, the laka, they begin, the letters that begin with or from the tip of the tongue and lips. And or lips, okay? Okay, these letters, come on now. These letters over here, they're called fluency. The Arabs call it that because there's nothing obstructing them. Okay? Yes, sir.
Fathun belongs in that column?
Fathun. No, yeah, Fathun is in this column. Okay, but I ran out of board. Okay? So, these go together except for tawassut. Tawassut is by itself. Okay? It's in the middle. And these go together. Dhalaqatun is here. Okay? But the Arabs call it dhalaqa because there's nothing preventing it. There's nothing blocking it. So a letter like that would be like meme. Say meme. It's on your lips. Right? Is there anything blocking you? Noon. It's right there. It's getting put out. Lam. It's right spitting it out. Bat. Fat. There's nothing there to stop that letter from coming out. Do y'all guys get my point there? Yes. You just spit them right out. Bat. I'm here. I'm going to use meme. Because all it is, am. It's right there. They begin right there from the tip of the lips or the tongue. Ab. Right there. You spit it right out. Okay? Now its opposite. The opposite of the laqa is going to be somtun. Some is.
But I thought you said that one was in between.
Somt?
No.
Balaga? No, dhalaqa? No, it's not in between. It's just no space. Tawassut is in between.
Oh,
Okay. So now we're going to go over here again, and I'm just looking for space. That's all. Can I erase the top part?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You're all very kind students. I'll remember that when I get your midterm reports. But I remember, too, that I never got an apple. And so, you ungrateful little... No, astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. Give me hey, I love lemons. I love lemons. I prefer a lemon over an apple, pretty much. Okay. Now, this one is called samtun. Samtun. So if this is fluency, and fluency, dhalaqatun is fluency, and it means that nothing is obstructing. Remember I said it's nothing obstructing it, right? So samtun means what now? Sad, mim, ta. Say sad, mim, ta. Samtun. Here it means restraint. Whoa, we have some restraint here.
So this is still going without.
Right, over here is this way, over here is this way. Okay? Now some might say, well, we want to put dhalaqatun over here and something over there. Allahu a'lam. You know, yeah, maybe something would have been better over there and dhalaqa over here. But, you know, who cares? Anyway, so here, we have it here. And something is that the letters that flow from the inside of the mouth and from the throat. That's what, this is not necessarily describing them. This is telling you about those letters. Remember I told you that the Arabs consider a letter dhalaqa. You finished with your little game? Okay, come sit down. The Arabs consider a letter dhalaqatun, or fluent, because there's nothing obstructing it from its pronunciation. So the Arabs consider a letter samtun if it's coming from behind, anywhere in the teeth where it has to go past the teeth. The sound emerges from behind the teeth, inside the mouth, and has to go past the teeth and the lips, then it's considered samtun. Does that make sense? Or it comes out of the throat. Those are letters that are considered restrained because they have to go past that. Okay? So all the letters that flow from the letters that flow from inside, from the inside of the mouth and teeth. Well, I would say behind the teeth and behind the teeth. Okay? So these are all the letters that are not the letters of dhalaqa, and the letters of dhalaqa are only like 6 letters actually. So somtun. I'm giving you. I'll give you an example. Sod. Everybody say sod. See, sod. It's coming from the top of your mouth, behind these 2 teeth, right? And so you push it past. Because it's like that, it's considered restricted, restrained. Okay? Maybe restrained would be better than restraint. Restrained. Okay? Because they're considered. Remember, this is a characteristic. This is how this letter is being described. These last 2, dhalaqa and samtun, are different from the other characteristics I gave you. The other characteristics were characteristics based on how you pronounce that letter, and there's something dealing with that. These are terms given to these types of letters. Dhalaqatun or samtun. It doesn't going to help you except for to know these letters are considered fluent. Why? Because they come from the teeth, the tip of the tongue, or the front forward, and nothing's blocking them. So they consider them dhalaqatun. And the rest of the letters are considered samtun. Why? Because they come from behind the teeth. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. And their sound has to go past the teeth and the lips. You understand that? So they're considered samtun. Make sense? Okay. So these are the letters that come that way. Okay. And one of them is us. Say us. Us. You see that sad has to come from between your teeth and past your lips. So it's restricted and restrained. It's coming through. Has to bust through. And some people might think sad. Say the letter sad. Is not a letter that is from the English language, that is in the English language, not from the English language, that is in the English language. I can't pronounce it. Yes, you can. Say the word, what is the word? Susie. When you say Susie in English, you're using the same function that you are when you say the letter sod. You're formulating your mouth to say sod when you say saw, to saw something in half. Okay, the ala, the instrument that is used to saw, it's called a saw, right? So you're saying the letter sod. Or when you say Susie. Okay? Everybody understand that? So I'm telling you this so you don't think, I don't know these letters, these letters are foreign. They may be foreign from one angle, but from another angle, they're not foreign. Why? Because English is a bastard language. It's taken from everywhere. And it's added into its own. So it has the letters of all other peoples. Not all other peoples, but a lot of other people. Okay? Pretty soon, there'll be that that you have in fulla, we say nambata, or stuff like that, that guttural sound, you don't have that soon in English. It'll change over. You look up fat now, it's up in the dictionary. P-H-A-T, right? So that's that. Those are all the letters that have opposites. Now we will deal with the letters that do not have opposites. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You guys ready? Or no? You can ask me a lot of questions because I'm going to erase this off the board.
So every letter is either samtun.
Oh, dhalaqatun. That's right. Every letter is either samtun, considered samtun, or dhalaqatun. That's the only point with those two last terminologies. Okay? What time? How much time I got left?
Right now it's 6:47, 48. 10 minutes. Yeah.
Do I have any more time? No.
Anybody upstairs yet?
Nobody's upstairs. The door's locked.
So we can make a time when
No, the imam is here. I mean, the muadhin.
nobody got the key. You gotta wait till I'm ready for him to come in.
Okay, so how much time do I have left?
I just told you what time it is.
I don't know what that means. How much time do I get? You gonna get?
6:50. They pray at 7. You got 10 minutes.
Okay, I got 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. Well, I'm not going to go any further than right here. I'll do the letters that have that do not have opposites. I won't deal with them today. I'll deal with them in a separate lesson. Take out your there's no more questions for me. Take out a blank sheet of paper. We're going to have a test. Please erase the board for me, please, sir.
You have a lot of questions. We may not be able to get to.
Well, if you had some questions, I'd listen to them. If not, take out a blank sheet of paper. We're going to start. Well, see, remember, I want to see how quickly you can regurgitate. Okay, I want to make sure that everybody here knows how to hear and follow instructions and write it down. You too, young lady. I don't care if you was eating your apple the whole time during class, that you didn't share with the teacher, but that's okay. We'll get over it. Naam. Take out a blank sheet of paper. Yes, sir.
Just got this today.
I know. I can deal with crummy.
I mean to study when I go home.
No, I know. I can deal with crummy on your in your test. Listen, people, understand. Quizzes are for you. They're not for me. Quizzes are for you. They're for you to practice your regurgitation, your remembering. And the more studies show that the more the teacher quizzes a student, the more the student remembers in the long run. And that's what's important. It's not the test, the big test that comes along, because most people cram. But you can't cram for a quiz. You can either intake the information and remember it, and once you've remembered it, now you've used your mind to think about it, your eye and your hand to write it, you have more tracks to your memory. Okay? You have more tracks to your memory. So this is a benefit, this is for you. Okay? And you can't prolong it by taking a long time to erase the board. I'm a help. Ameen ma yakum. Mercy. Alhamdulillah. Okay, thank you very much. Now I take out my other paper. No talking. You ladies talking a lot today. I'm going to have you, they used to have the dunce cap when you talk too much in class. I'm old school. Listen, put your name on top of your paper, okay? No talking during the quiz. I'm going to consider you cheating, okay? Borrow a piece of paper from one of these ladies because I don't want you to rip out your book. Is that a rip-out book? Could you borrow a piece of paper, please? All right. Young man, you can borrow a piece of paper from... You came late. That's not my fault. It's not my fault that you came late, right? Here, you can use this. Don't read it. Okay. All right. The first question is, what does sifat mean? 2. How many types of sifat are there? Sorry. Name them. Three. Wa alaikum salam. What is the opposite of hams? Why is a letter considered either dhalaqatun or samt? Well, the other one had to deal with what we didn't go over today, so I'm not going to write that one down. I'll make up a question. In which category does tawassut belong? A, this is a strong column. B, the weak column. C, neither. It is in its own category. A, B, or C? Okay. You have 5 minutes to do this test. After that, I will take your paper, whether you are finished or not. هذا والحمد لله. Actually, do what you're going to do. Here, hold this. Then, if you don't know how to spell it, do your very best. We'll do it like we do back in the days. Spelling don't count. It's how it sounds. So I took a course with these guys from the post office in Oklahoma back in like 1998. And they said, spelling don't count. Spelling don't count. Am I in the way here? I'm going to write this question down. This last one. In which category? Look at me. I spell category 2 different ways. So how do you spell category? C-A-T-E-G-R. See? That's being around too many French people. You know, and British people. When you're around them, you forget how to spell English words. Because they spell it, so different. Not so different, but little subtle differences that if you don't pay attention, you get knocked up. Me? Okay. Okay, see, the people are here for the salah. أقول قولي هذا. We'll end it right here, and I'll answer these questions on this quiz next week. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ameen.